Historically, skin bleaching can be traced to the Elizabethan age, where women of a higher socio-status began to powder and paint their faces white to show their authority over the less fortunate. They were barely seen outside of their living quarters, so many of them were naturally pale in color. European royalty was at its hierarchical apex. Therefore, they set the standard of beauty, and whatever they did as a daily routine was seen as the benchmark of exquisiteness. On the other hand, many common laborers and skilled artisans worked multiple hours outdoors, which would cause them to be covered in grime after a long day of work. Other working class families were farmers, which again meant they spent much of their time outdoors. A significant amount of the working population had skin tones that were much tanner in color, and perceived by royals as being filthy, thus creating the stigma that a person who had a darker skin tone also had less money and was at a lower socioeconomic status. European women of the laboring families soon began to and imitate the royal women by painting and powdering their faces as well, so that they could be perceived as classy and dignified. During the rise of colonialism, European nations became fixated with the thought of cleanliness. Something as simple as taking a bath became a symbol of economic status. In 17th century Europe, baths were only taken as a cure for gout, rheumatism, and to amend cold legs against the winter. The idea of regularly washing the body, even in a basin or hip bath in the home, was alien to these years. Nevertheless, citizens began demanding for soaps, and by the end of the 19th century, one of the cheapest toiletries became the most highly regarded one. Simultaneously, as obsession for personal hygiene grew, European nations began their explorations into Africa. Native African inhabitants were already concerned with their own cleanliness, as stated by Dr. Yaba Amarel Blay in the Journal of Pan-African Studies. As a matter of fact, they used soap, palm oil, lard, or shea butter to anoint themselves at least twice daily. This was not satisfying enough for European colonialists. They began imposing their soaps and other goods into African culture. Anyone who refused to abide by their rules for washing were seen as being disrespectful and were punished with violence or killed. During Europe's rise to power, they brought their ideals with them, that the darker the skin tone, the dirtier an individual is presumed to be. Dr. Yaba Amberel Blay also introduced the idea of colorism. It is defined as certain ideals in which non-white individuals uphold standards of white supremacy in order to gain certain privileges in society. Throughout history, African American women have been the target market for promoting the use of complexion soaps, lightening creams, and lotions, and other cosmetics through blatant offensive advertisements. As a result, it substantially impacted the African American community in the United States at the height of the independence movements. Consequently, skin bleaching, skin whitening, and or lightening, performed as a purely cosmetic practice, has gradually become a global pandemic among communities of color. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, where both positive events and negative collide. As prominent figures in African American history worked to expand equality for individuals of color, advertisements from major newspapers and magazines campaigned the ideas of skin bleaching. Here, I will narrate some of the advertisements found around numerous vital moments of the African American independence movements. In 1787, slavery becomes illegal in the northwestern territories of the United States, as Pear Soap launched advertisements that claimed to civilize the uncivilized person. In 1870, the 15th Amendment of the Constitution is approved, allowing blacks the right to vote. Pear Soap releases an ad claiming that they are the real secret of the white elephant. In 1909, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, is founded by leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois, James Weldon Johnson, Ella Baker, Moorfield Story, Walter White, Roy Wilkins, Benjamin Hooks, Marley Evers Williams, Julian Bond, and Kwesi Mfume. Pears claims that they are matchless for the complexion and that the world's fairest use it. Oh, why don't you use Pear soap? In the 1920s and 1930s, the Harlem Renaissance begins to thrive as a movement. Other companies began using false advertising statements that promoted unreal outcomes. Choose your own complexion. Don't fear the beach. Use Apex Bleach. Instantly lightens the complexion. In 1960, four black students in Greensboro, North Carolina, initiate a sit in at Woolworth's lunch counter, triggering multiple nonviolent protests in the South. In the same moment, Ebony Magazine sponsors multiple skin bleaching creams that state, "Never before in all history a skin whitener like this, the Fantan." I've got enough bottles, tubes, and jars to beautify the Sphinx, but this is the only one that counts. Wonderful things happen when your complexion is clear, bright, and Nadanola light. Life is a whirl for the girl with a clear, bright, Nadanola light complexion. Now, a lovelier, lighter skin for you, thanks to this wonder of modern science, new Archer Skin Tone Cream with Miracle Action Hydroquinone. Why depend on daisies? Be sure with a bright, clear complexion. You'll never know my skin was once dreadfully drab. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. delivers his most infamous "I Have a Dream" speech. Look how men flock around the girl with a clear, bright, Nadanola light complexion. For dark skin problems of various degrees. Life is more fun when your complexion is clear, bright, and Nadanola light. Have natural looking fair skin. Makeup won't hide a poor complexion. Pride in our race demands that we look light, bright, and attractive. In 2009, President Barack Obama is elected into office, making him the first African American president. Negative stances with regards to individuals of a darker skin tone in these advertisements mimic the comprehensive, wide ranging, and underlying message of racism within our society. Additionally, people of fame and fortune support that message through their ever changing public appearances, such as Naomi Campbell, Sammy Sosa, Lil Kim, and the most infamous of them all, Michael Jackson, who sparked much criticism for claiming to have vitiligo without ever appearing publicly showing symptoms. It takes years for a person with vitiligo to change so dramatically, and he seemingly did it overnight. Also, Jamaican dancehall artist Vybz Kartel is even putting out his own line of skin bleaching soaps, thus inspiring other Jamaican artists to promote them as well. However, the media does not show the adverse effects of using skin bleaching substances. These topical lightening creams use a strong bleaching agent called hydroquinone, which can cause the burning of skin, mutations, and skin deformities, and organ damage when used in excess. The damage can be so extreme that a person becomes almost unrecognizable. And ironically, in some cases, a person's skin can actually become much darker. Black women battled with and are still battling with the assumption that the main criterion of a beautiful woman requires you to have a fair or light skin. Colorism has become the kryptonite of African American culture and values, and media helps to perpetuate its standards. It is important that a woman of color fight history's subliminal message that light is somehow right. Bleaching your skin is not only morally wrong, but ethically wrong. Individuals, especially women of color, must recognize this and understand that the color of your skin does not change your personality. If you feel unimportant today, bleaching won't change that feeling tomorrow. Beauty comes from inside out and never the other way around. Thank you for watching. And for more information, feel free to visit the U.S. Food and Drug Administration at www.fda.gov, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People at www.naacp.org, or the public broadcast station at pbs.org.